Hi, welcome to Mostra Monday. I'm Jillian Malone, one of the co-founders of Mostra Coffee. And today I'm joined by my business partner and one of my dear friends, Mike Arquines. And we're going to be talking today about all things craft beer and Mostra. Before we get started, we have our featured coffee of the day. This is our Ghost Bear Espresso Blend, which is actually one of our top selling coffees. On your next order, you can get a discount if you use the code MIKE23. That's MIKE 23 at mostracoffee.com. How are you, Mike?
Fantastic.
Thank you for being here on Mostra Monday with me. We do so many collaborations. I cannot keep track.
Yeah.
This is a fraction of the things that we've done. So the Bake Kujira.
Yeah, which translates to ghost whale.
Okay, that is ghost whale.
So
I thought I heard somebody say that, and
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. So what is it about the Bake beer that everybody is so hyped on?
Bake, so if I'm gonna the complete story is just Jason gets us together, we fly out to Florida, we brew Big Papa, right? We knew right off the bat when we were the beer was brewing, when we added the coconut, we're like, oh my god, it almost smells like this Philippine dessert. It smells like cassava cake, which is like it's a dessert in the Philippines that has coconut. It's delicious, right?
Yeah.
Or babinka.
I love
right?
it.
It's because of the coconut. It's because of the vanilla, right? And we're like, man, because you never know. This is the first time brewing it, right? So again, like these breweries trust us, and Jason and John have been friends, and Maria, for a very long time, right? So, but it's still like a risk, right? Will this beer taste good? We just don't know in the end, right? So we're in Florida, we're brewing Big Papa, and we're like, it smells amazing. What if we, the goal was to brew the base beer. So what normally happens during a collaboration, we talk about what we want the beer to be now and like in the immediacy, and if what we want to do in the future, which is barrel aging, right? For example, Big Papa, that one right there specifically is the base beer.
Mm-hmm.
That is that is pre-barrel. And then when we went into a barrel, we go into the spin-offs like It Was All a Dream. Again, Big Papa, hip hop heads, It Was All a Dream. So It Was All a Dream is the barrel aged version of Big Papa,
Okay.
for example. And then Bake is like this. It's like the special barrel, right? That we feel is like the barrel is handpicked and hand chosen, right? And then it is a combination of the different barrel aged beers of what Big Papa is, right?
What makes a barrel special? Like what classifies choosing that barrel to be like a special barrel?
It's a story, right? It's a story. It's the pedigree of the brewery, right? It's its history, and it's also what liquid was in that barrel previously.
Okay.
Right.
That makes sense.
Sometimes it's maple syrup barrel, right? Or maple bourbon barrel, or like a really rare barrel, like, whatever,
Okay.
in terms of whiskey. So, so pretty much, Bake is whatever's in the barrel for Bake is like the best of the best, right? It's a combination of it's pretty much all the barrel aged Big Papas into one barrel.
So I would say that the Bake Kujira beers are always so hyped at our events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And should be, because going back to 2016, when we threw Big Papa in barrels as well, we were like, we want this to be the best stout in the world. That's our goal. The goal is to create something that is meaningful, which is our friendship, and create something with great product, right? That shows that's an homage to our heritage as well, and what we're about, and what we love is like hip hop, for example, too, and make it the best ever.
So something that I'm sure people are wondering at home all the time is, what is the process that you go through when you are approached by a brewery to do a collaboration?
Oh, great question. So when we source green coffee from different countries, we essentially go through that process of cupping. It's sensory evaluation, right? We determine if this coffee, if this coffee is good enough to sell or not or whatnot. So I wanted to follow that process in a sense where the other breweries will come in, right? We'll have interaction before via email and be like, hey, what do you want this to be? What are you thinking? What flavors you want to get out of it? So on and so forth. Okay, cool. They come in, bring the base beer. We taste the base beer, and then we can kind of have a good gauge. After so many repetitions, we have a good gauge on what direction we want to take this coffee.
So you're tasting the base beer,
Right.
and then you're putting together in your head, I'm going to call it your chef brain,
Yeah.
is trying to figure out the flavors that we need to develop on our end
Yeah.
to bring out certain flavors that they're looking for.
Correct. That's really what it is. It's like, how are we going to, complement, contrast, or cut through the beer?
And then at this point, are you the one that makes the decision, or do they make the decision on the final?
It's a
roasting
collaboration,
profile?
right? But ultimately, they're gonna let me decide 9 times out of 10.
Wow.
Because, and again, that's why I say, like, in terms of like breweries wanting to trust us in the process, right? Because we are the professionals. That's the experience we come with, right? So, and then we'll do a cupping with them, right? And it's all blind, right? So that they don't know what origins. If they're coffee savvy, they'll know, like, oh, this is going to taste like this, or this might have hints of this, so on and so forth. And yeah, we take good notes. And then we roast us on a sample roast, or like a 1 pound batch, and we send it to them, and they do a test batch, and then they give us notes back, and they say, hey, like, we love it, right? Most of the time they love it, right? But sometimes we're like, hey, can we get more of this flavor out of it? Like, for sure, let me try something out, or can we get more of this, or can we, maybe this lends itself to a blend, so we'll do that as well. So there's definitely a process. We've gotten really good though at smollering.
I love that word.
Smollering. At of vetting out the coffees, right? Some X factors, like, hey, we want like a hype coffee, like a Yemen or a Kopi Luwak or a JBM, right? Then that takes a little more time. But
okay, not to play favorites, because I feel like you have been blown away by so many collaborations we've done. But flavor-wise, like, I get their stories and collaboration and friends, but what collab have we done that you have been like, flavor-wise, this just blew your mind?
Blew my mind.
Yeah, flavor-wise.
I honestly, like, batch 1 Big Papa is always going to be like, there's a saying in the
core
beer
memory.
Yeah, there's always a saying in the beer geek world or in the craft beer world, where batch 1's always better. It's just a joke, right? It's not always better. But in this case, Big Papa batch 1, not only from a flavor standpoint, but it was just such a banger. It was so good. And then also, like, that was the first, right? That was like the first that really set off that journey into those beers. So and then you go into Bake. Bake is always, like, every year there's subtle changes, subtle differences, because the barrel changes, right? And it's never going to be the same, just like in roasting. Like,
And all that gets brewed at J. Wakefield, right?
all the beer gets brewed at J. Wakefield. Yep, correct. And then Jason will fly out, taste the barrels, and he's actually very involved in the process of barrel selection for Bake, right? With John, with Maria, and stuff like that. So it makes it really intimate. It's really cool to see. And then we fly out there, go to Wakefest, and we release it, and people.
So Wakefest is J. Wakefield's beer festival, which Mike just returned from.
Correct.
And again, I'm humbled every time that we get invited to those events. And even though we've done all the things that we've done in craft beer, it's really, really amazing. And I'm so grateful they keep including us.
Again, we don't take it for granted. And we're very appreciative of the love we get, not only on this side of the coast, but like when you go to the West Coast or the East Coast, Florida and Midwest and stuff like that. Like, we get a lot of love, especially in the craft beer circle.
That's amazing.
Right? It's pretty Pretty amazing. So Bake Kujira translates into ghost whale. Why is it called ghost whale? Because you have your whale in the craft beer world. Whale is that beer you want to chase because it's so legendary, right? And then you slay it, you drink it, right? A ghost whale is something that doesn't exist. Meaning, Bake there's not a lot of bottles for it, right? Of it, there's not a lot of bottles of Bake itself. It's literally one barrel. That's not a lot of bottles.
Like how many bottles are we talking?
God, like 200 something odd bottles, right? Again, like fact checked, I don't know, 2 something around that range, right? It's not a lot though. People are waiting in line for this stuff.
I'm like, that's what I was wondering. How do you become so lucky to get a Bake bottle? You wait in line for it?
Previously, like it would be raffled, right? And that would go to charity, right? Okay. And I still think to this day that's still the case. But probably the only time you can really, really try it is at Wakefest, which is Wakefield's anniversary party that they do in Wynwood every year. Amazing event. Grateful to be a part of it. So Bake Kujira, back in 2016, myself, Jason, and Derek are walking around. We're like, you can only hope that this beer is going to taste good after it comes out of the barrel, because a barrel, you just don't know. Sometimes it might just suck completely, or it just makes it just this legendary creature. Like it's so epic. That's what we wanted. Because in our heads, we're here in Florida. We came all this way, all this time and effort that we're all spending. We want this to be the best. That's our goal. So we check into the hotel. There's a hotel that we checked into. Jason had one room, and then we had our room. And then me and Derek go into the room, and we were like, wow, this is Jason put us in a nice room, right? And me and Derek look outside. We go on the balcony. Wow, we have a view of like this canal. Boats and people partying. There's yachts going up and down the canal, and we're like, dude, this is crazy. I wonder what Jason did. We're like, let's see what Jason has. We call Jason. We're like, Jay, guess what? And he's like, what? Dude, our view is sick. So sick. And then he goes, why? What is it? And he was like, it's like the canal. Like we get to see like all the yachts come through. And then he's like, well, I have the ocean view. Me and Derek look at each other like, of course he does. Like tight. So he was like, hey, I also have a bottle of champagne if you guys want to drink it. Like, of course he does. He has a bottle of champagne. So we go up to the room. We go to his room. We're talking because we don't have a name for this beer yet. The barrel aged, like this epic beer of like, there's only one barrel of it, right? And we're drinking the champagne. We're drinking Jason's champagne. He's working. Me and Derek are just kind of enjoying the view because he has ocean view. We don't, right? So we're hanging out in his room, and this free bottle of champagne that he got, and I'm looking, and I'm like, huh. So I'm looking up names. I'm like, oh, how about like this? So Ghost Whale, because it makes total sense, right? Fact checked everything. Bake Kujira, because sometimes people get like tattoos, and they're like, it means this, like it means like hope or
and
success.
then they find out
they find out it means like chow mein. Or like egg rolls, and you're like, that sucks. So I fact checked it multiple times. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. So I will take credit for naming Bake Kujira. So
take it.
I will take it with the ocean view, drinking Jason champagne with Derek.
I love that.
Yeah, that's so kind of how it started. And then 1 year later, it became this phenomenon. So again, very lucky for that opportunity, and it's still going. This recent batch of Bake was amazing. So Bake, translating to ghost whale, right, is the best barrel-aged Big Papa. So we brew Big Papa as the base beer, and then Big Papa goes into barrels, which they turn into, other offshoots like It Was All a Dream, Label Us Notorious, so on and so forth. But the best barrel chosen becomes Bake. So every year there are 2 versions of Bake. It's the single barrel select version of it, and as well as a cuvee, which is like a melange. We take all the different barrel aged Big Papas. It Was All a Dream, Label Us Notorious, Tape Rock, Tape Pop, all those ones, and they blend that into one.
What does cuvee mean exactly?
Cuvee is just you're essentially just you're mixing together.
Okay.
And blending with intention. So if one has a little more chocolatey notes and marshmallow notes, but this one has a little more fruit character to it.
Oh, okay.
Depending on what your end result you want the end result to be, then that's what determines the ratio.
So I see that you've had a notebook this whole time. Can you tell me what that is?
Yeah. So this is essentially what
oh my gosh, you have the OG.
Yeah, this is the
logo.
You remember
No, this.
Oh yeah.
The OG logo. I made that on my computer.
As you can see.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you even have
OG.
that? That's
Well,
crazy.
I mean, you hang on to things that are near and dear, and this is, and again, like I said before, I'm super nostalgic, right? And I love to, along with Sam, we like to hoard things that have meaning. Right?
Yeah.
This is like big meaning. So this holds a lot lot of my early roasting notes. As you can see, it's very just because it was a new craft for me, right? And I wanted to, do it right. And
what are the dates on these?
Mostra's very first roast here is, we go back to May 21st, 2013.
Whoa.
So, and it
crazy.
was a Guatemala, and it sucked.
Yeah.
So, but then what makes this super significant as well is this is where I also used to write my notes when we started doing coffee for beer. Like JBM, for example, there's a big section on Jamaica Blue. There's a big section on Choco Vesa, and so on and so forth. So
I love that.
It's kind of cool just to kind of see, like...
I didn't realize you were documenting it that way, because I know everything's in the program too, but you just took your own separate notes.
Yeah, and that was me, like, back, like, I didn't know how to use a program completely other than just tracking real-time stats. But I used this because I could reference it back at home or whatever, whatnot, or, so it's super cool, super special.
I love that.
Our early cold brews, so on and so forth, so.
Cool. So the secrets are in the black book that Mike is holding on to right now.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the biggest questions that we get and that we've been getting for years is, what is this Mostra anniversary party that we did every year? And as you may or may not know, that anniversary party has turned into what we call Mostra Land. And I wanted to take the time to kind of take it back to where this whole thing started, because it's actually connected to beer. It is our anniversary party, and it was an event to highlight our anniversary, but we were also taking that event as a way to highlight the craft beer collaborations that we did over that past year. And things just escalated to what it is today. So I just wanted to talk with you a little bit about the Mostra anniversary parties. And, when we started that in the first place, the first year we did that, it was at my husband's restaurant, the Cork and Craft, an Abnormal Beer Company. It's all in one place. And, you were instrumental in bringing these beers all in one place. And it was something that we served at the bar over there. But I don't think that when we threw that first event that we had any idea, one, what to expect that year, two, what to expect the year after, and then everything that has basically transpired since then. So, just looking back at that first event at Cork and Craft, do you remember pulling that tap list together? And what was even on that tap list in the first place?
Yeah. Man, we're going to go back. Okay. Yeah, so I think we celebrated our second anniversary there? Yeah. That was the first ever iteration of early days Mostra Land. So what we never forget at Mostra, us as owners, we never forget where we came from, right? We always want to pay homage to the people that helped us get there, whether it's, industry folk, craft beer, chefs, it doesn't matter, family, friends. This is really just a celebration of a business that, started in a garage, right? And has had the opportunity, going into year two was so new to us still, so exciting, but we're like, wow, we're still around, right? Let's celebrate with our family and our friends. So we held it like you said, at Cork and Craft. It was not a lot of people know and remember this, but it was a free event.
It was free.
The beer wasn't free because that's not legal, but the admission was completely free. You just paid for food and you paid for your pours.
And coffee.
And coffee, obviously, right? So, yeah, the tap list was whether I'm comparing this tap list from like current Mostra Land to back then, it was all super awesome. Like at that time, we were pulling together some amazing breweries, and the unique part about it is that nobody else has really these beers, right? It's because we helped create them with our talented friends. So
I remember, well, since we were using James's restaurant, my husband's restaurant, the Cork and Craft, they opened for service. Mike, were you still the executive chef at the time?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I wasn't, yeah.
So they opened for service at 5 p.m.
Oh, yeah.
And so we, in order for us to use the space, we had to start really early in the morning. And I remember setting up till literally 3 or 4 a.m. the night before, but we couldn't set up until the restaurant closed at 9. So they had to like completely clean the restaurant, move all the tables out, and then we moved in.
Yeah.
We brought an espresso machine there, and
it was a big rush.
Big rush, all the kegs for the tap list. Okay, I might be making this up. There were like 25 beers on tap that first time.
Yeah, it was like 20, 25 beers. Yeah, you're spot on. I think we have the tap list somewhere. But at that time, it was like the line was wrapped around the whole restaurant, and the restaurant is not small at all. It wraps around the whole thing, and people are waiting. It was kind of cloudy,
and it was actually at 8 in the morning. So because we're a coffee company and we wanted to be able to get this event done and cleaned up and wrapped up so that they could reset for dinner.
Yeah,
we had to be done, I think, at 2 o'clock or something. So we started at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, man.
We did not know if anyone was going to show up, and all the marketing was strictly social media, and I was the one running social media during that time. And so we did not know who was going to show up. And I remember getting there at like 6:30 in the morning, and there were already people camped out in front of the restaurant.
Right.
And by 8 o'clock, there were hundreds of people waiting in line to get in. And we were like, oh, no, these people are going to be drinking beer at 8 a.m.
Yeah, and they were okay.
They were
okay. And they had their kids in tow.
Oh, my gosh.
And luckily we had food and, and all that stuff too. But it was just this crazy, like, wow. Like, again, like you said, you're like, is anybody going to show up?
Yeah. And to be honest, like every year I actually feel that way.
Same.
Does it not matter how successful the year was prior? I'm still like, is anyone going to come out?
We don't take it for granted. That's why.
No, we really don't. We really don't. But so that first year we did a free event at Cork and Craft. And it was huge. And we were so shocked. Then the following year, we decided to do it again at the Cork and Craft free event as well. Yeah. And that event in particular, so that was our 3rd anniversary.
Correct.
I remember somebody telling me that, because we had to like hire security that year because it was just so insane the year prior. But somebody told me there were 800 people lined up around the building and all the way down the alleyway just waiting for their opportunity to get in. And, people waited in line.
Some people left, right?
Yeah.
But then what also made it interesting is I think it was also bottle pickup too. Was it a bottle pickup for our anniversary beers too as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
For example, this one is from, we call it M2, Mostra Second. This was done when Derek was still abnormal.
Look at Derek is making another cameo in this story.
Yeah, hand bottled by us, as well as our good friend Brandon. So shout out to Derek, shout out to Brandon.
Yes.
But this is the OG anniversary M2.
So what we did every year was for the anniversary party, we had a anniversary beer.
Yeah.
And that's what that was. So every year there was an M2, an M3,
right.
M4,
and then we went into Mostra 5,
Yeah.
Mostra 6, Mostra 7. Yeah.
So those were the first 2 years at Cork and Craft, and then we were realizing, you know what? Maybe we need to go to a bigger venue. Yeah. Maybe we need to charge for tickets this time,
but have food and everything all inclusive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, I remember like sometimes a couple of brewers would show up to the event, like in those first 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But the fourth one, we actually started to kind of slowly move it into like a festival.
Right.
And, we had stations because everything at Cork and Craft was just all the beer was behind their bar. And this time we were like, okay, let's spread the crowd out.
Right.
So that fourth anniversary we did at Urge Gastropub in San Marcos.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know are they still around? Urge Gastropub?
Urge it's not.
It's not. So that was in San Marcos, and that event we sold tickets for.
Right.
And we sold tickets online, and it was those tickets sold out
Like instantly. And it's crazy. I remember there was a fire that day as well. When the day of the event,
shoot,
there was a fire going on the coast, and you could see smoke.
Yeah, it was like Palomar Mountains or the fires.
It was happening in different areas, and I was like, oh my gosh! And I think it was like December.
Yeah, no, it was something. It was either December or January, but it was definitely cold. But it was a hot day.
Yeah,
because of the fire. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah, and the breweries came. A lot of breweries started coming out, and we invited not only like established breweries, but breweries that were still brand new, and we're wondering how do we be a part of it. I was like, I don't know, just come out and send some beer, right? I mean, we've collabed already. Come out, let's do this. I mean, specifically like Weathered Souls out of San Antonio, Texas, and then Hidden Springs out of Florida, so on, and and it was really cool to see the actual brewers come out, just like a fest, like you said. It was cool.
But, that year, again, we sold out instantaneously, those tickets. So for Mostra 5, we decided let's try and make it even
let's level
bigger.
Up again.
So that year we ended up at the DoubleTree Hotel in Del Mar.
Yeah.
Our good friend, Chef Evan Cruz, was the one that helped us get into that space. And we basically took over the entire hotel. And man, we had so many people come through. Dan Henderson, the champion UFC fighter, came through. We had Benny Kendrick Barbecue came through. And people started, that was the year that people started flying in really like from...
Like super intentional. Like
everywhere.
Kind of like what we talked about Copenhagen Beer Celebration, right? That's the trip that's surrounded, like Mostra's anniversary, then anything else after that, right? That's the focus.
Yeah.
And people flew in for that.
That one was insane.
That was insane. And a lot of people till this day tell me that was like one of their favorites.
Really?
Because it was just like convenient. Like you go upstairs, you change, you come back down, you're drinking and you're eating lechon, which is, suckling pig and all you can eat. Shout out to Chef Evan for making all that amazing food happen. So.
And then brewers came out for that one. Like that one, people were like, we're coming through, we're going to pour our beer. And oh God, I remember there was this one beer, Assassin.
Yeah.
Is that Toppling
Goliath at Decorah, Iowa.
And I remember Mike going, people are going crazy over this Assassin beer. And then I was like doing the layout, and I purposely hid Assassin. So there were so many beers that I had to like put all the stations all over.
All spread out.
So all spread out. And I purposely put this, I like hid it in an event, like in one of their event rooms, like far away. So people literally came into the event, took their map out. They were like, where's Assassin? Found like Assassin. And then they were running down this hall so hard because, I mean, once the keg kicked, then you weren't going to have a chance. And, we also that year, we also did VIP tickets for the first time.
Yeah.
And so people got in an hour early. I mean, when I see the video of the line outside of the DoubleTree before the event started, it blows my mind.
It was so epic. Yeah, it was so much fun. A lot of out-of-towners. Beers that, again, Mostra Assassin, Decorah, Iowa, Toppling Goliath. Again, one of the best. When we said when Bake their beers are like one of the beers that we strive to be better than their stouts because they're legendary, right? So we were just hoping Bake could be just that. But Mostra Assassin was like wow, that sold tickets. Like there's
Yeah.
there's like those beers that like everyone comes for. All the beers are amazing, right? But then there's going to be those upper tier beers that people consider that they're like, okay, I can go just for that, and that was one of them.
I feel like that was also the year that I started to lose track of the collaborations. Like that's why I'm here asking you so many questions, because we did so many. It was like every other day you were like, "Oh, we have this beer with so and so and this so," and like we're shipping beer out to Indiana, to Florida, to New York, to whatever. And I was like, "Who, what, where?" And and I was already past drinking stouts for reasons we all know. So I was like,
We shall not
I
repeat.
can't. I'm not even drinking it to know what it all is. But yeah. So that one was so epic.
That was epic. Yeah.
So epic.
That was very epic.
And then the year after that was Mostra 6. And
6.
is that 2018?
That was no Mostra. So Mostra 6, I think, was the pier.
Okay. All right. So January 2020 was Mostra 6.
Yes.
And we decided to go to Broadway Pier in San Diego, which is a huge venue. I like so many football fields of venue there. And, we took on the very ambitious task of throwing our 6th anniversary there.
Yeah.
And I remember my fondest memory actually is not the event itself. It was when we sold tickets for it.
Yeah.
Outside of our Carmel Mountain location.
Oh, yeah, we did both, right? We did in person and
online.
Yeah.
And I remember so we did tickets. We sold tickets at 7 a.m. One morning on a Saturday morning. And I got to Carmel Mountain Ranch, our location, at like 5 in the morning. And there were people lined up like they were in line for Indiana Jones to get a ticket. Oh, wait, and I didn't even mention the fact that people were sleeping there the night before.
Yeah.
They had driven in from Sacramento and Arizona, San Francisco, LA, Orange County. It was like, I was like, oh my gosh. Like my husband James ended up buying, I think, like pizza and donuts or something.
Yeah, I bought
delivering
donut holes and poured.
Just to say thank you for sleeping out here tonight just to wait for these tickets.
There's people on Facebook posting like line check and see how many people are in line so they know when to come.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I could not believe the kind of support and excitement that people had for these collaborations. And, that morning, once we sold tickets, we sold, I feel like we sold maybe 500, 600, 700 tickets in person that day. And then the next day we did our online sale.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it with my sister Aya. We were she was in Nashville at the time and I was in San Diego, and we went live at noon.
Yeah.
And we hit refresh 3 times.
Yep.
Between 12 o'clock p.m. and 12:01 p.m. And by 12:01 we were sold out of all the tickets.
Yeah.
And that event had, I think, 1,300 to 1,400 people.
Yeah.
And I was humbled, beyond humbled over that. I could not believe it. And that one was insane because we probably, how many brewers do you think flew out for that particular, like everybody, like almost every brewer.
Yeah. There was a lot of breweries, and normally during fests, they send out like your marketing team, but the brewer or the owners are they kind of stay behind. A lot of the times the brewers will come out, but then there's also like they send their marketing street team out and stuff like that. I just remember being able to hug all the brewers.
I know
that day, and I was like, wow, you came from all this way to come to a coffee shop's anniversary party. Granted, it's a beautiful location, and you're on the East Coast, and our weather is way better than yours in January, so not a bad gig. But very grateful because it takes time and money and just
these brewers were spending their own money to come out, and and setting you up with some of the most hype beers that we've done with them and things that they've done even without us. Like they were bringing that to serve to our guests. And I remember one guy coming up to me at Mostra 6, and he was like, hey, I just wanted to tell you that, just the vibe, the good vibes that you put out on social media is exactly the vibe that I get at Mostra. Like, it just feels like all love. Like, there's no hate here.
Yeah.
Everybody's really, really excited to be here. And I don't know, that meant so much to me.
For sure.
That people were getting that experience and
Right.
feeling. And I think just through that, customers of ours who are aware of it that went to that event, they understood what was going on. But I think people in the stores were like, what are you guys doing?
What are you doing? Yeah.
And I think, that's the point of, this conversation, is just to help everybody understand that there's been essentially 10 years of relationship building and collaboration in the craft beer industry to, lead us to this point.
Right.
And I mean, so that was January 2020. And then I called that Mostra 6 the party before the end of the world, because 2 months later.
The Rona.
Yeah, exactly. And I honestly didn't know when or if we were ever going to do an event again.
Yeah.
I didn't know when we were going to have another anniversary party really comfortably.
Just
We were like, well, that was the end.
Yeah.
But eventually, once things started to open up again, and we were getting hit up like crazy, like, when's the next Mostra anniversary? When's the next Mostra anniversary? And I'm like, are we even allowed to throw an event?
Right.
And I was honestly really nervous about it, but I think creating a space for everyone to feel comfortable was really important.
Yeah.
So we definitely couldn't put everybody back in the Broadway Pier again.
We took as many precautions as we could at that time, right? Things were slowly opening up, but it was still like, like, is it okay? Is it not? So, but yeah.
So that was also the year that we decided to rebrand the event and call it Mostra Land. So that is what the anniversary is called now. So if you are wondering what this Mostra Land event is, it was formerly known as Mostra 2, Mostra 3, 4, 5, 6.
Right.
And then Mostra Land was 7. And we did it at Liberty Station. And we had Tribal Theory out there performing. Plus we had, again, so many brewers flew out for it. And you once again came through with an incredible tap list.
So many beers, almost too many beers at the time. But we were like, we had this big, gigantic 3 football sized length space. And we were like, let's go. And, there was a crazy story about when the beers were getting there. And, it's all on the truck. And we're about an hour and a half till showtime. And the lift gate, which is like a gate that comes down, you can put all the kegs on the lift gate, and you can slowly lower it down to make it easy to unload. Stop working. All the brewers dropped what they were doing, and they pitched in. They all picked up all these kegs and walked it to each station and stuff like that. So, again,
and this is a huge venue.
A huge space, like, so big.
Thank you to all the brewers and all the volunteers out there that helped us with that, because
and the staff and all that too. They all came together. It's just there would be no beer, 0 beers when we opened. So,
oh my gosh,
it was crazy. But yes.
So, funny story. So a couple of weeks before Mostra Land 7, I was invited to host the Taste of the Philippines event at Waterfront Park, and they had asked me if I would introduce the final act, the headlining act, who was Apple Diat from the Black Eyed Peas. So there I was. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Yeah, I'll do it.
Right.
So I go and I do this event, and I remember being backstage, meeting Apple and his team before he got on stage. He got there literally like right before he had to go on. And, I had no idea how it was going to go. And he got up there, and his hit songs from the Black Eyed Peas started to play, and the whole crowd of, I think they said there was like 8,000 people there or something.
Yeah, it was ginormous.
Just got up and was going crazy. And it was like every generation was out there. It was like high school to grandparents all up there dancing, singing every single word in these Black Eyed Peas songs. So I was there off stage, so hyped on it too. I was like, oh my God, I forgot I was there to work.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, I was like, I need to invite him to Mosterland to perform. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get him, but I'm going to ask. So after that show, I went backstage and talked to his manager and him. And I was like, hey, my coffee company has this event. We would love to invite you. It's in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I got their info, and literally for like a week and a half straight, I was like texting them, his manager, like, can you guys just come through?
We were playing Black Eyed Peas songs.
Oh my gosh, we were trying to manifest Apple to perform. And eventually, like just a few days before Mosterland, I get confirmation that he's actually going to come through.
Yeah.
That was awesome. A really cool moment. So
awesome.
That event, we actually had Apple the App come out and perform. And it was so epic.
Yeah.
And from there, we just started to build a relationship with him and his team. And literally for a year after that Mosterland, you know, we started creating collaborations. We did a beer with Apple Day App called Pampanga Punch. You want to tell them a little bit about Pampanga Punch?
Yeah, Pampanga Punch is pretty much an ode to Apple's hometown or home province, which is Pampanga in the Philippines, which is to me arguably one of the gastronomic capitals of the Philippines. So we created it for Mosterland, for Mosterland 8, right? For 8 years. We created Pampanga Punch for Mosterland to be the official beer in collaboration with Harlan Brewing, Moxa Brewing, and of course Apple and us. Yeah, we pretty much took the fruits that are abundant in Pampanga, and we created this amazing sour beer, and it was epic. A lot of people ask, like, how come, like, there's no coffee in it? Is there? It's a sour beer. It has like mango and guava and calamansi, and they're like, but where does Mostra come in? And I was like, look, like there's coffee cherries, but at the end of the day, like this. We've been in the game for so long, and we've built these relationships, these lasting bonds with these brewers and companies and craftsmen and women. And at the end of the day, like it goes beyond almost coffee. We are a coffee company, right, at heart and our soul. But it's really through the spirit of friendship and collaboration. So it really kind of like put things in perspective, right? And we're like, man, we can still create, and it doesn't have coffee, and people are going to love it, right?
What are some of the other beers? You've done some other beers, too, with Harlan that didn't have coffee in it, but you were just a part of the creative process.
Yeah. We do so we have a membership, the TME, the Mostra Experience membership that we have every year. They get to brew a beer with Harlan, Nick and his team. Amazing. Shout out to Nick, shout out to Ryan and Kenji and all those guys, man. And Aaron, thank you so much for allowing us to do this.
Yes, we love you all so much.
Thank you, year in, year out. It is a Buko Pandan milkshake IPA. Pandan is like poor man's vanilla in the Philippines. It's a leaf. I pretty much came up with the idea. I showed them how to process it, and then they worked their magic. So
that beer is so good.
It's really good, and it's gorgeous. It comes out bright green.
We have it.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Beautiful.
It is bright green.
Bright green.
Literally.
We try to release it around St. Patrick's Day, hence it is green, but there's no really real timetable when we release it. And sometimes we do it twice a year. So, and then we have Halo Halo. We did a Halo Halo beer, which does not have coffee in it as well. So, again, shout out to the Harlan team for allowing myself and all of us to create with you guys. Always epic.
So for the last Mosterland, our most recent Mosterland, you know, what was so epic about that was, you know, I think it was the first year to me that I felt like it represented all the pillars of everything that
we do.
We do.
Yeah.
I mean, not that the other ones didn't.
Yeah.
But I think just as our company evolved,
Yeah.
More into food and more, more beer, and then into cocktails,
Yeah.
collaboration, and then like our Philippine efforts, I think is why this Mosterland just felt so full
Right.
and energized. I just felt so energized from
Yeah.
the whole experience. So that one, we actually had partnered with Apple Diap and his foundation. And so we did the Pampanga Punch beer. We did the Apple de Bear instant coffee as well.
We did Scarlet Stallion with Moxa,
Yes.
which is our take on Red Horse in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Legendary beer out there. So
And then we had Apple come out and perform. We were like, oh, we need to have another performer perform with Apple too.
yeah.
And, we were racking our brains to figure out who that could be. And I remember being on the phone with Aya and Bev and thinking, like, getting this vision of Arnel Pineda just filling up that venue with his voice. Because we went back to the Broadway Pier for that Mosterland. And we were able to land Apple Diap
Lead singer
and
Journey.
Arnel Pineda.
Crazy.
It was crazy. And then I ended up flying my aunt's band from Maui. They're a rock band.
Oh,
and
man. That was
they
amazing.
came to back up Arnel in his
Yeah.
show. And I don't know. I was just,
It was crazy. Like, what? Like, what's happening?
yeah. And, and I think, and people do ask, like, why them too? And, like, what's with the celebrity angle on the Mosterland thing? And honestly, like, it's not an accident. Arnel and Apple are both Filipinos that have broken through mainstream entertainment and media, and they have entertainment music careers,
Yeah.
but they are so connected back to the Philippines
Right.
and the land. And there's so many efforts that they both do to give back to the people of the Philippines. And that's literally why we started Mostra,
Right.
to create sustainable livelihoods for farmers in the Philippines. And Apple was a farmer.
Apple was a farmer. Yeah.
And
lives on a farm still.
yeah, still lives on a farm. So yeah, so it's like they are so aligned
Yeah.
with our brand and our mission.
It's alignment. Yeah. 100%. It just
Yeah.
made total sense. I mean, we're able to put on this amazing event. We get to celebrate, 8 years of being in business with our family, friends, breweries, restaurant chefs, right? Chefs alike. And then now we have these two amazing representatives in mainstream media that just so happen to be Filipino.
Yeah,
We're just completely just showcasing Philippine excellence all over the place.
absolutely.
So
I mean, you just said chefs. So some of the pillars at Mosterland, obviously we've got coffee, obviously we've got craft beer, but then we had cocktails, which let's get into that. But we had cocktails, food, and entertainment. So the cocktail space, you partnered with Will.
with Will Pidd, yeah, I've known him since the Toronado days. Big beer guy, shared a lot of beers together, a lot of great times, and he is now he got into cocktails and mixology, and now he's just crushing it right now. And I looked to him; it just made sense organically to kind of look to him for guidance on these cocktails. So I literally would just kind of say, "Hey, I'm thinking something like this," and then he like got it. So it's pretty cool to be able to work with people that just get you and exactly what you want to be accomplished, right? So,
And then the food.
and then the food, man.
So the chefs, it's insane, the chefs that you bring in for Mostra
Dude, yeah, we're very
every
very
year
grateful.
when we do this.
So Mostra and Friends is an area at Mostraland, or last year's Mostraland, where we highlighted a lot of the local chefs. Mostra and Friends, that's really what it is. But those friends so happen to be world-class chefs. So we had Craig from Monarch, Phil from White Rice, we have Tara from Anime, Brandon from The Friendly, and Drew from Papalito. And then Chef Christiana was banging out our ube beignets, and Chef Tony at the time was when he was with us was spearheading and organizing the whole thing. So it was such an honor and a pleasure to have them there. They were, mind you, in a kitchen. Saturdays are so busy, right? There's no way you can get Saturdays off, or should have no reason as a chef not be in your kitchen on a Saturday. They were, and we're super grateful. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't that's what I was just about to say, that they were not working their own restaurants on a Saturday night. Not only not a Saturday night, but it was Halloween weekend.
Oh, man.
So it's even crazier at some of their spots. But we're so grateful for all of them. Plus we had brewers flying out again. And it was just so nice to see so many familiar faces and these people that have continued to support Mostra year after year after year. And
forever grateful. Thank you.
About a week after Mostraland, I was getting my car detailed from my friend Brandon, and he had gone to Mostraland. And he was expecting like a spoken word acoustic night where everybody's like, snaps, when somebody does a good job, like a coffee shop vibe. Yeah. But he's like telling me that he's walking in and he's like, okay, why does this feel so big and epic? But then once he walked in, he said that he was so blown away and shocked because it was so far from what he expected. Because, he goes to our locations to get coffee here. So, in his brain, he's like, coffee company, coffee shop, anniversary party, small, intimate, acoustic vibes. Yeah. But it was so far from that.
That's so cool.
And he was just like, he could not stop saying, wow. Like when he was telling me the story, he was like, wow, whoa, I can't believe it's this big and this crazy. And just could not believe the hype that the people around him were feeling about being there. And he's like, how long have you been doing this? And I'm like, well, this is our 8th time around. And it's just been it's just gotten bigger and bigger and more intense and escalate. Like, and every year, like I'm in charge of planning it. Well, this last year I stepped back a little bit more and I'm like helping, I'm like Aya stepping more into it. But every year I'm like competing with myself. I'm like, how can we keep outdoing ourselves?
Oh, man.
And honestly, we actually have continued to outdo ourselves. But this last one, I have no more ideas.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm like, what?
I don't know how.
How do we top,
like Bruno Mars, like her, I think that's the only Beyonce. I mean, I don't know. Because honestly, I was on stage. So I was hosting. I always host, but I was on stage hosting and introducing the acts. And at one point, so J. Ray Soul is the female vocalist for the Black Eyed Peas. So I was off stage just, hyping them up and screaming and freaking out that they were all up there. It was Apple and J. Ray performing. And she's like, hey, can you get us some Pampanga Punch? Apple wants to drink some up on stage while he's performing. So we grab some. So I go and I bring it on stage and she's like, stay here. And I'm like, okay, I will. So I stayed up there and then like Beba started and then she like pulled me out on stage and then I was like out there just dancing
part
with
of
them.
The Black Eyed Peas.
I know. It was like a dream
come
true.
You were part of the group.
And then, so I'm up there and then Apple calls up Arnel Pineda, who had already performed from Journey, called him up to join the last number, I Got a Feeling, to like help close it out, right? And then by surprise, before the song starts, Taboo of the Black Eyed Peas jumps on stage and I'm like, what is happening right now?
You see Apple's reaction. He's like,
oh my gosh, he's so surprised.
his brother's there, right? So it's cool.
And I had actually asked Taboo to get up on stage earlier in the evening, and he was like, no, I'm going to be dad today. I'm not going to do that. But then he got up there, and then it was like the coolest moment ever, and it was crazy. But that is Mostraland, and we really can't explain it. We didn't plan it to be this way. Yeah. Honestly. So I don't know. The next Mostraland, I'm thinking we just skip 9 and we just go to 10. Yeah. And then we do something crazy.
I like that a lot, and I think that's where we're headed, and looking forward to it. Like it blows. Every year we try to outdo ourselves. People have no idea whether it's your detail guy or my family that comes down, they have no idea.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you're having a party, the coffee shop party. Okay. They think Mostra is a coffee cart.
I know.
And it's so cool. You have multiple coffee carts.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, Auntie, we have multiple coffee carts, and please come out, and there's going to be food, and we'll have some performers. So they're thinking it's like, tinikling, and, like they'll have like the dances and stuff. And when they show up, they're like, that's crazy. Like, that's like, okay.
I was not expecting that.
I was not expecting that.
I know.
But anyways, yeah. So we're, Mostra Land, Mostra 10. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
In the works.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Whew, whew, whew. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in to Mostra Monday. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Follow us at Mostra Monday on Spotify. Also, you can find us at Mostra Coffee across all platforms. And to shop coffee and for more information, visit mostracoffee.com. I'm Jalen Malone, and we'll see you all next time.